Hi there, or as they say in Italy, ciao. I'm Velocity, along here with Herc and Leica. Today, we are in the beautiful Italian city of Pisa, and this is the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa.
We are here to tell you about one of the world's most famous astronomers, Galileo. Galileo Galilei was born here in Pisa on February 15, 1564. His family moved to Florence in 1570 when Galileo was only 6. But Galileo returned to Pisa to study at the University of Pisa in 1581.
It is here in Pisa that is said Galileo was studying the motion of objects and effects of gravity. Rumor has it that Galileo dropped different balls of different weights off the top of the Leaning Tower to see if they would hit the ground at the same time.
No one knows if he actually did perform the experiment on the tower or not, but his theory concluded that two objects of different weight, dropped from the same height, will hit the ground at the same time.
Wait a minute. If I dropped a feather and a hammer at the same time, the hammer would hit the ground first.
True, but we have air here on Earth that will interfere with different object shapes. But in a vacuum, that will not happen. They prove that on the moon.
Not quite yet. I haven't put the solar wind in yet, but I will shortly. I want to watch this. Joe, you have a good picture there. I've got
Beautiful picture, Dave.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand, a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? Which proves that Mr. Galileo was correct in his findings.
So there you have it. In a vacuum, all bodies, regardless of weight or shape, will fall at the same rate.
But soon a new invention called the telescope caught Galileo's attention, and he turned his sights on astronomy.
Welcome to Padua. It is here that Galileo taught at the University of Padua and started looking at the night sky with a new invention called the telescope.
Telescopes actually came from what were called spectacles. Today we call them glasses. Glass makers in Italy started making reading glasses using convex lenses in the 1300s. And then in the 1400s, Italian glassmakers made glasses with concave lenses to help people with distancing.
By putting a convex lens and a concave lens at opposite ends of a tube, the telescope was born. The first diagrams of a telescope appear in 1570, but it wasn't until 1608 that the first telescope was introduced to the public in the Netherlands.
In the next year, 1609, a 3-power and a 6-power telescope was invented. But Galileo went way better than that, and by October 1609, he had invented a 20-power telescope.
Let's pretend it is 1610. I will be Galileo and you be one of his students. We will tell the story of one of Galileo's most famous astronomical discoveries.
Ciao, Professor.
Buonasera. Come sta?
Bene, grazie. What are you looking at in your telescope, Professor?
Come, see for yourself.
Jupiter!
Yes, but what else do you see?
I also see 4 stars.
Ah, see. That is what I thought. But they are not stars. Guarda questo. Come here and look at this. As you know, the stars are in a fixed position to each other. In other words, the Big Dipper, for example, will always look like this with the stars here, here, and here. But planets move differently from night to night, so one night the planet is here and the next is here and so on. The stars do not move, but the planet does.
See, I understand, Professor.
On the 7th last week, I was looking at Jupiter and saw 3 stars thus. On the next night, the 8th, I would expect to see Jupiter move away from those 3 stars. But no, it looked like this. Then on the 10th, 11th, and so on, the 3 stars were always next to Jupiter and moved with the planet. They also changed positions, but always were near Jupiter and moved with it across the sky. On the 13th, I noticed a 4th star. I observed them for over a week.
If those are not stars, then what are they?
They are moons orbiting Jupiter.
Moons? But they can't be. Everyone knows that the Earth is the center of the universe and everything orbits the Earth. How can there be moons orbiting Jupiter?
Exacto. Nonetheless, our observations do not lie. These tiny lights are moving with Jupiter, so they have to be influenced by and a part of Jupiter. They change position around the planet, and the only explanation for that is that they are going around Jupiter. Jupiter has 4 moons. There are theories that the Earth may not be the center of the universe with everything revolving only around it.
Thinking like that can get you in trouble, Professor.
This is so exciting. Last month I saw that the moon is not smooth, as we have always been told, but through my telescope I saw the moon has valleys and mountains, just like on Earth. And now I have found moons orbiting another planet. The telescope is going to toss our view of the universe out the window. The 4 moons Galileo discovered are today known as the Galilean satellites, in honor of him. They are the moons Io, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede. And today, we know Jupiter has 67 moons.
You can easily see those moons, just like Galileo did from your own backyard. Just point your telescope at Jupiter, and it will be easy to see. Look at them for several nights in a row, and you'll see just what Galileo saw.
Now, let's go to Florence. Bienvenuto a Firenze. Welcome to Florence, birthplace of the Renaissance. Galileo moved here from Padua not long after he discovered the moons of Jupiter.
Here, Galileo turned to observing Venus and noticed that Venus had phases just like the moon does.
Galileo then studied the sun and watched the sunspots by modifying the telescope to project the image onto the ground.
He also studied the tides and tried to figure out why there was a high tide and a low tide. He concluded that it was caused by the motion of the Earth.
He soon came to the conclusion that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but instead the sun was at the center. The Earth was just a planet orbiting the sun. This was known as the Copernican system because a man by the name of Nicholas Copernicus proposed this idea in 1543. Galileo's studies with the telescope convinced him that Copernicus was right.
Sometimes Herc thinks he is the center of the universe.
Very funny. But in the 1600s, this way of thinking was a big no-no with the Church and the Pope. Soon Galileo was brought before the Inquisition and tried for heresy. He was found guilty in 1633 and sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life. By 1638, he was totally blind, and he died at his home outside Florence in 1642.
But today, Galileo is remembered as being one of the greatest scientists and astronomers that ever lived.
If you ever visit Florence, be sure to visit the Galileo Museum. The Museo Galileo, Istituto e Museo di Storia della Scienza.
Oh, that is a fantastic museum. You can spend the whole day there. There are all kinds of cool science stuff there.
You can see all of Galileo's telescopes and other equipment he used and studied, including thermometers, the pendulum, pumps, and more. It is right around the corner from the Uffizi Gallery, so be sure and take it in.
Well, that was our quick look at Galileo. That was fun. Until next time, happy stargazing!
Hey, give a shout out to our sponsors, without whom we would not be here. Visit their websites and partake of their services and products. A big thank you to the Yukon Department of Tourism and Culture and Westmark Hotels, Westmark Whitehorse.